Hello my friends. Wild boars, coyotes and white-tailed deer have always been considered animals that cause the most damage to agriculture and farmers in the United States. However, few people know that in recent decades, millions of wild birds have also caused significant damage to farmers in this country, especially grain farmers. According to a USDA report in 2021, the wild birds that cause the most damage to agriculture in the United States include the rock pigeon, house sparrow, cattle egret, and the red-winged blackbird. In addition, another invasive bird, the European starling, is also considered a concern for many farmers in the country. These are red-winged blackbirds, a common bird found throughout North America, including the United States. According to the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, in a survey in 2021, the organization estimates that there are between 120 million and 190 million red-winged blackbirds living in the United States. The number of these birds in North America could be more than 630 million individuals. In the southern states of America, the red-winged blackbirds usually start nesting and breeding from early March to late April. Females usually lay 3 to 4 eggs, and the time from incubation to adult chicks usually lasts about 23 days, depending on the weather conditions and the sources of food that they get. Red-winged blackbirds are known to be territorial birds, especially during the breeding season, when they protect their nests and young. If humans get too close to their nests, especially during this breeding season, these birds may perceive it as a threat and react aggressively. These birds are very sensitive to any intrusion they sense in their nesting territory. Even raptors that appear within their nesting territory will be attacked by the red-winged blackbirds. They will not hesitate to attack and repel intruders. The red-winged blackbird is considered to be a fully physiological mature when they reach 12 to 15 months of age. At this stage, the average weight of this bird is about 0.2 pounds, 3 times smaller than pigeons. Like the millions of wild parrots in Australia, red-winged blackbirds usually pose no problem to American farmers if they don't congregate in large flocks. Many people even have a hobby of providing free food to attract these red-winged blackbirds to their gardens. During the fall and winter, the red-winged blackbirds often gather in large flocks to migrate together, or the formation of large flocks can also take place in locations where these birds find an abundant source of food. Flocks of red-winged blackbirds, which may number in the thousands, even tens of thousands, often have the habit of feeding in wetlands or in grain fields. Red-winged blackbirds are opportunistic foragers, and they may eat seeds planted by farmers before they have a chance to germinate or grow. In addition, this bird also often appears in fields of wheat, sunflower, or corn to feed at the pre-harvest stage. If you are a sunflower or wheat farmer on a scale of several acres, The presence of thousands of these birds in the field can cost your crop between 30 to 50% of its yield. Not only does it affect agriculture, but flocks of red-winged blackbirds, numbering in the tens of thousands, have appeared in urban areas, which causes these areas to be horribly polluted due to the millions of piles of dung that they leave behind. In recent years, the use of nets to protect crops or intimidation measures are often used by farmers in some US states to deal with red-winged blackbirds when they gather in large flocks and move to agricultural areas. In addition to the red-winged blackbird, another invasive bird that also causes many negative agricultural and environmental problems in the United States is the European starling. The European starling was introduced to North America in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Since then, the population of this bird has increased rapidly, and they are considered one of the most successful birds in the United States. It is estimated that there is currently about 250 million European starlings in North America, and about 75% of them live in the United States. European starlings often nest and breed in areas close to human habitation. They are considered to be monogamous, and each year a pair of European starlings usually gives birth to 4 to 5 chicks. Like the millions of red-winged blackbirds, European starlings would not be a problem if they did not congregate in large flocks of the millions. Currently, states such as California, Texas, Florida, and Michigan are often the places with the largest populations of European starlings in the United States. These are also the states that regularly record the appearance of European starling flocks of up to millions. Like the red-winged blackbirds, large flocks of European starlings also have the habit of foraging in grain fields and vegetable fields. In addition, this invasive bird also regularly feeds on the farms of fruit trees such as cherries, grapes, and blackberries. The biggest problem that a flock of European starlings causes is hygienic. Large amounts of their droppings contaminate animal feed or water in agricultural areas. Do you have a problem with wild birds appearing near where you live? Let us know your problems in the comments section of this video. Hello my friends, today we are going to the poultry farms in the United States to see how the process of raising millions of poultry takes place in the vast grasslands. Today, chicken is the most commonly raised poultry species in the grasslands of the United States. In addition, duck, turkey and quail farms also appear quite a lot in the grasslands of some states with large farmlands, such as California, Iowa, Nebraska, Texas, or Minnesota. According to the USDA statistics, by the end of 2021, there are about 813 million poultry in the United States, of which chicken is the largest species, with about 64% of the poultry, followed by turkey with 26%, and duck accounting for only 0.04% of the total number of poultry raised in the country. Currently, the majority of poultry in the United States is raised on factory farms, and only 7% of poultry is raised free range on pastures. This is a duck farm in Tipton County, Indiana, home to more than 200 ducks. All ducks on this farm are raised for the purpose of harvesting eggs. Every day, hundreds of ducks on this farm will be herded into the more than 5-acre pasture next to the farm to freely pay and eat small insects. According to the USDA statistics, in 2021, there are about 275 active duck farms in Indiana, and the number of ducks in this state is about 27.5 million. In particular, the Culver Farm in the town of Middlebury is home to the largest number of ducks, with more than 11 million. Like other states in the United States, most ducks in Indiana are kept in closed enclosures, and only about 17 farms in this state graze the ducks on pastures. In addition to the food that ducks can earn on their own in the pasture, the workers at this farm also add pellets and cereals to their diets every day to increase their ability to lay eggs. For free-range ducks with a nutritious diet, they can lay about 280 to 300 eggs per year. Meanwhile, commercial ducks raised in the factory farm can lay 350 eggs per year. Because there are no ponds and small pools of water around the farm, these basins will be used to bathe hundreds of ducks. It is very important for ducks to be bathed and cleaned every afternoon to help them feel relaxed and increase egg production. Every morning, after the ducks are herded to the pasture outside, the workers at this farm will harvest the duck eggs, and the number of eggs collected per day at this farm is about 200. Goodbye Duck Farm in Indiana, we will go to a turkey farm in Minnesota to see how hundreds of turkeys here are raised. Once the inspection is complete, the eligible turkeys will be moved from this farm to start a new life. Except for the slightly larger sized, newly hatched turkeys don't look much different from the chicks, and the care for them is very similar. These are 3-week-old turkeys, and the hundreds of turkeys here will be kept in cages for 2 months before they are free to forage in the pasture. Currently, in the United States, there are about 2,500 active turkey farms, and Minnesota is the state with the largest number of turkey farms in the country, with around 667 farms. After about 2 months of age, hundreds of turkeys at this farm will be released outside to roam freely and dig for insects. According to USDA statistics, at the beginning of 2022, there are about 224 million turkeys in the country, and about 44 million of them are raised in Minnesota. Currently, only 7% of turkeys in the United States are raised free range. This is another turkey farm in Minnesota, where there are about 570 black turkeys. Currently, farm-raised adult turkeys typically weigh between 30 and 40 pounds. Meanwhile, the maximum weight of wild turkeys is about 15 to 20 pounds. In the late afternoon, hundreds of turkeys will be herded into the barn to rest and avoid predators like foxes or wildcats. This is what happens when the turkeys are eligible for the meat harvest. They are caught by these workers and transported to the turkey processing plant. According to statistics, in 2021, about 46 million turkeys will be slaughtered during Thanksgiving, 22 million at Christmas, and 19 million at Easter in the United States. In addition, every day, about 330,000 turkeys are slaughtered across the country. Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of the Treasury of the United States, once stated that there is not a citizen of the United States who does not like to eat turkey on Thanksgiving Day, and now this has come true. The next location we will visit in this video is a free-range chicken farm in Iowa, which is also the state with the largest number of chickens in the country, with more than 61 million. Here's what's going on inside the chicken coop. More than 900 chicks will be raised here for 3 weeks before they are moved to the pasture. Currently, in the United States, there are about 196,000 chicken farms in operation, and only about 11% of them are free-range chicken farms. These are 2-week-old chicks, and in about 10 days, they'll be moved to the pastures to start a new life. All chickens on this farm are raised for the purpose of harvesting meat, so their diets will be different from farms raising chickens for eggs. About 90% of the feed used for these chickens here is corn and pea meal. After about 3 weeks, these workers will catch and put hundreds of chickens in these cages before moving them to pasture. At this pasture, mobile chicken coops have been prepared to welcome the new members. Each chicken coop like this will be used to house 50 chickens, and they will live here until they are able to be harvested for their meat. Due to the freedom to move around every day, the meat quality of the chickens on this farm is always preferred over chickens that are kept in cages for life. And this is what happens when the chickens reach 4 months of age. Similar to turkeys, hundreds of chickens here will be captured and put in cages before being transported to the poultry slaughterhouse. In addition to the broiler farms, in the United States, there are also about 3,400 chicken farms that are free range for the purpose of harvesting eggs. Of course, the eggs at these farms are always much more expensive than eggs at closed farms. Each year, the United States produces 97 billion eggs, and about 11 billion of them are eggs harvested on free-range farms. It is estimated that each American consumes about 288 eggs per year, and this number is expected to increase to 289 eggs each year by the end of 2023. Hello my friends, today we are going to the US state of Alaska to see how farming and livestock work here. Agriculture may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Alaska. Snow-capped mountains and vast glaciers are what we often hear about in this remote state. Despite being the largest state in the United States with 365 million acres, only about 883,000 acres are cultivated in Alaska. According to statistics, in 2021, there are 513 farms in Alaska. Operating on these farms are mainly vegetable farming, cattle raising, reindeer, pigs, and goats. In addition, farming and fishing is also a very famous industry in this state. Currently, most of the farms in Alaska are concentrated in the northeast of Anchorage City. This is a bison farm in the city of Delta Junction, in the southeastern part of Alaska. Here, about 65 bison are grazing on fenced pastures. Currently, Alaska has about 915 bison distributed on 34 different farms. Most of the bison here are raised for meat and some other recreational purposes, such as hunting. Each morning, dozens of bison at this farm will be herded to the grasslands to freely feed. Around these vast grasslands is a protective fence system, so there are almost no predators that can attack the bison. A full-grown bison has an average weight of 1,800 pounds and females an average weight of 960 pounds. Each day, each bison here needs to eat food equivalent to about 4% of their body weight. Every year in Alaska, about 230 bison are slaughtered for meat. Meanwhile, the number of bison slaughtered each year across the country is more than 20,000 head. Here are the cattle ranches in Alaska's Kenai Peninsula. Because of the cold weather, herds in Alaska usually spend up to 3/4 of the year living indoors, and each year they only spend about 100 days foraging in the grasslands. According to the USDA statistics, each year about 6,800 calves are born in Alaska, and the state's cattle population has always remained at around 25,000. The main forage used for the herds here is grass and hay. In winter, fodder will be spread on the snow-covered ground, and hundreds of cattle will feed here all day. Due to living in a harsh environment, the quality of beef in Alaska is also appreciated compared to other places in the United States. In addition to bison and cattle, the musk oxen is also a famous animal in Alaska. This is an animal that was once considered extinct in Alaska due to overhunting. By 1930, 34 musk oxen had been shipped to Alaska from Canada, and today their number has grown to more than 5,000. This is a musk oxen farm in the city of Fairbanks. It is home to more than 60 musk oxen. Like cattle, musk oxen spend most of the year living on the farm. In the summer, when the weather is warmer, they will be herded by ranchers to the fields and cliffs to feed freely. Basically, the behavior of the musk oxen is similar to the bison living in this state. On average, an adult male musk ox weighs between 800 and 900 pounds, and the weight of the females is about 600 pounds. Goodbye livestock farms. Now we will go to vegetable farms in Alaska to see how the process of cultivating and harvesting vegetables takes place. This is a nursery with millions of lettuce plants. After about 2 weeks in the nursery, millions of these lettuce plants will be moved to the fields to start a new life. Basically, the process of growing lettuce in Alaska is similar to other states like Arizona, Florida, or California. After nearly 2 months since planting, millions of lettuce plants here will be harvested in early October. The process of harvesting lettuce is done everywhere by dozens of farmhands, which is similar to the process of vegetable harvesting in Arizona and California. In addition to lettuce, cabbage, carrots, and pumpkin are also vegetables grown in Alaska. Next, we'll head to the southeastern waters of Alaska to see how the fishing of millions of salmon goes on. From mid-May to September is the best time to catch salmon in Alaska. Every year, about 9,000 boats flock to this area to fish, and about 34 of these boats sink or have accidents. In 2021, about 223 million salmon have been caught in this sea, and the revenue of this fish is about $745 million. After thousands of salmon have entered a net, they will be pulled by these fishermen onto a boat and transferred to the storage tank below the boat. Currently, salmon caught in Alaska accounts for 93% of salmon production in the United States. The remaining salmon is mainly farmed in the waters of Washington and Maine. According to the Alaska Fishing Employment Center, trout fishers typically earn about $17,000 within 3 months of working. Hello my friends, today we are going to some cattle ranches in the United States to see how the process of raising millions of cattle happens. Currently, in the United States, there are more than 700,000 cattle ranches. In particular, Texas, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma are the states with the largest number of cattle ranches in the country. The cattle industry has existed in Texas for more than 300 years. As a place with the favorable climate conditions and large grasslands, herds thrive in this state. Currently, in the United States, there are more than 70 different breeds of cattle. The most popular cattle breeds include the Beefmaster, Longhorn, Hereford, and Angus's. Amongst them, the Angus breed is easily the most seen cattle breed in the grasslands of Texas. Every year, about 35.8 million calves are born in the United States, and up to 11 million of them are born in Texas. At birth, these calves typically weigh between 60 and 80 pounds. On some Texas farms, calves will live with their mother for about 3 months before weaning. At the age of 1 to 3 months, these calves will have to go through a branding process. Branding helps ranchers easily identify their cattle when they get lost in another herd whilst grazing in the pasture. Today, many Texas ranchers still use cattle branding in the traditional way to mark their herds, just as they did in the 1800s. It's part of the history of grazing cattle here. Currently, most cattle in Texas are considered fully mature and eligible for meat consumption when they reach the ages of 2 to 3 years. In the morning, these cowboys will release their cattle to the grasslands to let them feed freely. According to statistics released in 2020, the United States has about 614 million acres of land used for cattle grazing, in which the state of Texas has a grazing area of 130 million acres, accounting for 21% of the country's area. On January 1, 2022, the United States Department of Agriculture said the number of cattle in the United States was 91.9 million heads. In addition to feeding freely in the grasslands, millions of these cattle are also fed other foods such as corn and grain to increase the quality of their meat. It is reported that the amount of corn and grain consumed by cattle in the United States could be used to feed 800 million people each year. In the late afternoon, thousands of cattle will be driven back to the farm by cowboys to rest and avoid predators at night. This is what happens when these cattle are eligible for meat harvest. Thousands of cattle will be sent to the beef processing plants. In 2020, the number of cattle slaughtered in the United States is around 33.3 million heads, and total meat production was 27.3 billion pounds. In the next part of the video, we will go to the cow farms in Australia to see how the process of exporting thousands of cattle goes on there. Each year, cattle farms in Australia export about 1.3 million head, and 80% of that is shipped to China. First, these herders will use helicopters to drive thousands of cattle back to the gathering area. Next, these cattle will be transported by truck to the port. And this is what happens at the harbour. Thousands of cattle will be loaded onto ships and exported to other countries. Hello my friends. Today we are going to the US state of Louisiana to see how farming and livestock work here. Agriculture is one of Louisiana's most important industries, ranking in the top 3 along with petrochemicals and tourism. According to USDA statistics, at the beginning of 2022, there are about 31,000 operating farms in Louisiana, with a total area of about 8.3 million acres, accounting for 29% of the state's land area. Currently, operations on farms in Louisiana are mainly growing corn, sugarcane, rice, raising cattle, pigs, and poultry. In addition, the state is also famous for catching some seafood species, such as shrimp, oysters, and crabs. Each year, the Louisiana shrimp industry creates approximately 15,000 jobs and contributes $1.4 billion in state revenue. We are currently on a pig farm in southwestern Louisiana. Here, more than 200 pigs are raised on a free-range farm. They are free to dig into the ground and play in a large protected area. It is estimated that there are about 175 pig farms in Louisiana that are raising pigs. This way, the number of pigs raised on the free range in this state is about 4,000. Every day, hundreds of pigs at this farm will be herded into the forest next to the farm to freely feed. Here, they can eat some grass and nuts. In addition, farmers will also bring pellets to the place to supplement the diet of pigs. Most of the feed used for pigs here is corn, soybeans, and a mixture of sweet potato flour. Therefore, the quality of pork on these farms is always much higher than that of pigs kept in a barn. According to statistics, in 2021, there are about 63,000 pig farms of various sizes operating in the United States, of which Iowa is the state with the largest number of pig farms in the country, with about 5,700 farms. This translates to about 24 million heads. In addition to free-range pig farms, there are also about 680 other pig farms operating in Louisiana of various sizes. In recent years in the United States, there have always been about 2,700 pig slaughter facilities in operation, and an average of about 1,100 pigs are slaughtered every hour across the country. It is estimated that around 120 to 130 million pigs are slaughtered across the country each year, and the average annual pork production is about 25 million pounds, contributing $57 billion to the country's GDP. This is a free-range chicken farm located west of New Orleans in Louisiana. There are about 350 hens raised here for the purpose of harvesting eggs. Just like the pig farm in the beginning of the video, every morning, hundreds of chickens at this farm are also released into the pasture to freely dig for insects and supplement forage. The freedom to forage on a large pasture means most of the food is derived from nature, making the quality of eggs at these chicken farms highly appreciated, and they are almost always sold out. In addition to foraging on their own in the pasture, the chickens at this farm are also supplemented with other foods, mainly corn and cereals. Even the leftovers from human meals will be used to feed the chickens. According to the Louisiana Agricultural Center, in 2021, there are about 1,500 active chicken farms in the state, and only about 8% of them are free-range farms. In recent years, the average amount of chickens produced in Louisiana has fluctuated between 870 and 890 million pounds, and the state's revenue from the chicken industry is about $780 million annually. According to USDA statistics, in 2021, in the United States, there are around 233,000 active chicken farms, and only 1.7% of them are free-range chicken farms. Most chickens raised in the United States are raised in factory farms with absolutely no access to the outdoors. Goodbye livestock farms. We will now go to the sugarcane fields of Louisiana to see how the process of cultivating and harvesting millions of tons of sugarcane happens. The end of July is usually the time when sugarcane planting takes place in most fields in Louisiana. According to statistics, in 2021, in Louisiana, there are about 403,000 acres of farmland used to grow sugarcane, and this is the state with the second largest sugarcane area in the country after Florida. Today, the majority of Louisiana's sugarcane farms are concentrated in the southern part of Pointe-Coupee County. The area of sugarcane grown in this county accounts for about 22% of the cane growing area of the state. Most of the sugarcane varieties currently grown in Louisiana take about 11 to 13 months to be harvested. July to October every year is the time when millions of tons of sugarcane is ready to be harvested. In 2021, cane production in Louisiana is 13.3 million tons, and cane production in Florida is about 17.3 million tons. After harvesting, thousands of tons of sugarcane will be poured into these wagons before being transported to the sugar factory. This is an exterior view of a sugar mill in Louisiana. Currently, in Louisiana, there are 11 operating sugar factories, and the annual production in this state is about 1.5 million tons, accounting for 20% of the country's cane sugar production. In addition to the vast sugarcane fields, Louisiana's agriculture is also famous for its rice fields. Currently, this state ranks third among the states with the largest rice production in the country. Leading the list are Arkansas and California. According to data reported in 2019, in Louisiana, there are 425,000 acres of farmland used for rice cultivation, and the number of active rice farms in this state is 823 farms. Each year, the United States produces 21 billion pounds of rice, and about 55% of it is consumed domestically, with the remainder exported to 120 other countries. In addition, the rice industry generates about $34 billion a year in the United States and provides about 125,000 jobs. Farewell to the farms on the mainland of Louisiana. We will now go into the waters to see how the process of catching millions of shrimp here is done. Every day, these fishermen will sail into the sea about 70 miles from the mainland to catch shrimp. These are recreational shrimp fishers who use trawls that are about 16 to 25 feet in length and are limited to no more than 250 pounds of shrimp per day per boat. Although the nets yield a lot of fish, all of these fish will be used to feed the seagulls. The main aim of these fishermen is shrimp and crab. For many years now, Louisiana has always been the state with the largest shrimp production in the country, with about 110 million pounds caught each year. In addition to shrimp, crayfish is also a species that is widely farmed and caught in Louisiana. Currently, Louisiana is always leading in the country in terms of crayfish production. An estimated 125 million pounds of crayfish are harvested here each year. After the crayfish are dumped out of this trap, the fishermen will continue to bait the trap and put them under the water to prepare for the next harvest. Currently, in Louisiana, there are about 1,000 crayfish fishermen and about 1,300 crayfish farmers. After transporting, millions of crayfish will be placed in these mesh bags and transported to the processing plant. Hello, my friends. In addition to the negative impacts caused by the 287 million feral rabbits, in recent years, Australia's natural landscape and agriculture have also been significantly affected by other invasive species. These include feral goats, wild boars, feral camels, and European red foxes. Most invasive species were brought to Australia in the 17th and 18th centuries by European explorers and settlers. At that time, these animals were brought to Australia for the purpose of recreational hunting and providing milk or meat. Over time, animals that escaped or were intentionally released into the wild have bred and formed invasive species populations in Australia's territory. Similar to how invasive species are controlled in the United States, the Australian government also allows people to hunt and trap some invasive species in large numbers. In addition, economically valuable invasive species will be collected and sold by farmers to muster for lost production costs. The first goats were brought to Australia by British workers and miners in 1788 as pets and food. After many years, goats that escaped or were released into the wild established wild goat populations. Today, there are about 2.3 million wild goats living in Australia. They are distributed mainly in semi-arid or hilly areas such as Western New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, and Queensland. Like the white-tailed deer in the United States, the wild goats in Australia are also quite cute. However, a wild goat population of more than 2 million can cause major damage to Australia's agriculture and environment. In states such as Victoria, New South Wales, and Western Australia, herds of wild goats cause significant environmental damage by competing for food, water, and shelter with native wildlife and livestock. In addition, herds of wild goats also have a negative impact on Australian agriculture by overgrazing on pastures, damaging crops, and reducing farmers' profits. It is estimated that wild goats cost Australia's agriculture around $25 million each year, not counting their impact on the environment or degradation of grasslands. In addition, wild goats are also considered to be the main cause of foot and mouth disease in cattle herds in Australia. Today, the commercial exploitation of wild goats in Australia is an industry worth around $29 million. Many Australian herders consider catching and selling wild goats an essential part of their business. This also helps them to minimise the economic damage caused by these millions of wild goats. Cattle ranchers and farmers in Australia often use motorbikes, horses and helicopters to muster hundreds of wild goats before selling them to goat meat processing plants. On average, each male wild goat in Australia typically weighs about 132 pounds, and an adult female goat weighs about 97 pounds. The average price farmers get for selling a wild goat is about $13.70. In addition, hunting and trapping are also used to control wild goat populations in Australia. Each year, about 39% of the wild goat population in Australia is exterminated by a variety of methods. If left unchecked, the number of wild goats in this country would double every 1.6 years. In addition to wild goats, wild camels are also a problem for Australia's natural landscape and agriculture. It is estimated that in 2022, there are about 1.3 million wild camels living in Australia. They are present in 53% of Australia's grassland ecosystems, including most of the arid regions of Western Australia, South Australia, and the Northern Territory and parts of Queensland. In the 1840s, the first camels were brought to Australia by the British to aid in the exploration of the remote and inhospitable parts of the continent. Until 1907, the number of camels in Australia was only about 21,000, and at this time they were not considered a problem. However, with the advent of motorised transportation in the 1920s, camel travel was gradually phased out, and as a result, all domestic camels were released into the wild. Although camels do not have the ability to reproduce as quickly as rabbits, they are well adapted to remote lands and without natural predators. As a result, the number of wild camels in Australia has increased very rapidly. It is estimated that in the early 2000s, the population of wild camels in Australia peaked at about 3.1 million. However, when control methods such as hunting, trapping, and mustering were applied, the number of these animals was reduced by more than half. In Australia, wild camels have caused particular problems for people living in the areas where they are most common. They can destroy fences and completely destroy an area of vegetation by trampling and grazing. They can also deplete small reservoirs of water in arid areas. In addition, wild camels behave aggressively towards sheep and livestock, sometimes refusing to feed or drink with the animals. It is estimated that the economic loss caused by wild camels in Australia is about $17 million per year. Of course, this reported figure is likely to be much lower than what millions of feral camels cause across mainland Australia. Currently, the most common methods of controlling feral camel populations in Australia is aerial hunting by helicopter, mustering wild camels, and then butchering them. In addition, most governments in the Australian states allow people to hunt wild camels in unlimited numbers. It is estimated that each year around 103,000 wild camels are culled in Australia. In addition, between 9,000 and 13,000 wild camels die each year due to old age or other problems such as lack of food or the harsh climate. Each year, the measures to control wild camel populations cost the Australian government about $19 million. If population control measures are not taken, the number of wild camels in Australia will double every 7 to 9 years.
Oh, good shot.
To this day, millions of wild goats and wild camels remain a problem for the Australian government and farmers. In fact, population control methods such as hunting or mustering are the best and most humane way to check their numbers in order to protect the interests of both local communities, farmers, and Australia's native species. Hello my friends, today we are going to sweet corn farms in several states of the United States to see how millions of corn are harvested. In terms of yield and value, sweet corn is the second largest processed crop in the United States, behind only tomatoes. In 2021, the total value of the sweet corn crop in the United States was around $777 million. The first place we will visit in this video is a farm in Florida. Here, millions of sweet corn are hand-picked by workers from Mexico and Guatemala. Every October, more than 5,000 workers flock to sweet corn farms to work, and the average salary each worker receives is about $17 per hour. Currently, Florida is the largest sweet corn producing state in the United States. In 2021, the sweet corn planting area here is about 37,300 acres, and the yield is around 327,000 tons. Next, we'll go to a sweet corn farm in Riverside County, California. Due to the hot weather during the day, sweet corn harvesting at this farm is done at night. Here, millions of sweet corn after harvest will be packed right in the field, instead of having to go to packing factories. According to statistics released in 2021, the area planted to sweet corn in California is about 23,500 acres, and the yield is about 169,000 tons, accounting for 16% of the total sweet corn production in the United States. The third location we will visit in this video is a sweet corn farm over 30 acres in Yakima Valley in Washington State. During the period from 2010 to 2016, Washington was always the state with the largest sweet corn growing area in the country, with about 93,000 acres. However, the state's sweet corn acreage has fallen sharply in recent years and has ceded the title of largest sweet corn producer to Florida. After harvesting, thousands of sweet corn will be transferred to these boxes thanks to the conveyor system. We are currently at a sweet corn farm in Michigan to see how the process of harvesting thousands of corn goes. Instead of using dozens of workers, the process of harvesting millions of sweet corn on this farm will be done with this machine. Currently, sweet corn acreage in Michigan is 9,500 acres and yields about 71,000 tons per year. Thousands of sweet corn after harvest will be transported to a warehouse for packaging. Next, we will go to another sweet corn farm in the state of Florida to see how the process of harvesting tons of sweet corn here happens. Millions of corn will be cut and loaded onto trucks. Here, these workers will arrange it so that the truck can hold as much sweet corn as possible.